So today we'll talk about elements, each and every element. Today I'll talk about logic controllers. Okay. Today I'll talk about this topic entirely. Let me open JMeter.
It's Ravi here.
Yeah, Ravi.
Sir, is it possible to tell in short about the teardown and setup?
Yes,
thread?
yes, I will tell that. I will tell that. Okay. So before we talk about this controllers, let me tell you what is setup thread group and tear down the thread group. Okay. So you know what we do in normal thread group, right? But the difference between normal thread group and setup and tear down thread group is setup thread group is one which we add before we start our load test. Before starting load test, we will add setup thread group, and after completing load test, we will add tear down thread group. So our actual thread group for load test comes here in between setup thread group and tear down thread group. But do we use this in real time? Very rarely we will use this. But the reason for having this setup and tear down thread group is if there are in some applications, there will be some activities which you need to do before the load test. And after the load test, you might need to do some activities. Those activities are not related to your load test. Okay. For example, you have to create users. You want to create users before starting your load test, and you want to register the users, right? Create in the sense register the users. Okay. And after that, after user registration, you will start your load test with the users. If, for example, if you have created 15 users here, you will start your load test with 15 users here, right? And after completing the load test, you can use tear down thread group to deregister the users. All the 15 users deregister. So basically, we'll have this setup thread group and tear down thread group. It is used to do the activities before and after your load test. Like for example, so okay, let me open one more JMeter UI. Let me add one setup thread group, and I will add one normal thread group, and I will add one tear down thread group, right? I added setup thread group, normal thread group, and tear down thread group. Okay. Let us see what will happen now. So now for we'll use just this login logout script. Okay. So I'm using just this. I've copied that login logout script. This is nothing but sign, right? Correlations were not there. Yeah. let me do quickly this correlation part and I'll explain you. Okay. Okay. So I have created this script. Okay. But I don't have currently, I have only one user, right? I have only one user. So that user I am using here, Vamshi 5. So I don't think that I don't have any users as of now, right? So I need to create the users. How are we creating the users? We are creating a different script till now. We are creating a different script, registration script, and we are creating users based on that registration script, right? And after we are running that script for 10 iterations, 20 iterations, based on that, that many users are getting created. And after that, we are giving that users in this CSV dataset config and running, right? But with setup thread group, if we have the setup and teardown thread group, you don't need to create the users in a separate script. You can create that registration script. You can put that registration script in this setup thread group and give one user 10 iterations here or 20 iterations. Okay. So what are we taking for registration? Okay, let me do it in JMeter.
It takes too much of time.
No, it will take very less time in Blaze.
For running the script. To run the script, it will take too much of time.
No.
Like 3 minutes, 4 minutes also.
No, why? Why it will take? It won't take. I'll run it and show it to you. Script is a script, whether it is from BlazeMeter or if you record it normally, it is this, it will be the same script. The reason why it is running, you should tell me the reason why it is running more time in Blaze while you are recording in BlazeMeter. Anyone? Because after BlazeMeter record, it will come including think time. That is the reason it will be including think time. Once you record BlazeMeter, it includes think time also. You can see constant timer or random time or something.
Yeah,
So
uniform.
it will include think time also. While it is running, it will consider that think time also. That is why it is taking time.
So that's another question, sir. Is uniform random timer same as think time? We can ignore think time if we have the uniform random timer in the script.
Sorry.
So when we are recording through BlazeMeter, like you said, we will get the uniform random timer.
Exactly, both are same. See, the difference between constant timer and uniform random timer is, I'll tell you. So I thought of explaining you when it comes to the timers topic, but it's okay. I'll tell you now. So this is constant timer. So here you give normal time, like whatever you give, it will take like 3000, it will take 3000, 4000, it will take 4000 milliseconds, like 4 seconds, right? But if you give uniform random timer, so it has two things here. One is constant delay, another one is random delay. So constant delay, if you give 3000 in constant delay, and if you give 1000 in random delay, what will happen is it takes 3000 milliseconds. That means 3 seconds for sure, right? And it will consider this random delay also. That means between 0 to 1 second, it will take some time. Okay. So think time will be somewhere between 3 and 4 seconds, right? You are getting me? Think time will be somewhere between 3 and 4 seconds. Like you are giving, if you give this uniform random timer for all your transactions, what will happen? For one transaction, it may consider 3.1 seconds. Another transaction, it may consider 3.3 seconds. For some other transaction, it will consider 4 seconds. But it will not go more than 4 seconds. Because the constant delay here is 3 seconds. So for sure, it will take 3 seconds. And what is the random delay? 1 second. That means 3 seconds plus 0 to 1 second. Anytime it will take. Like it will take 3.5, it will take 3.6, it will take 3.7, it will take until 4. Right? You understood the difference, right?
Okay. Thanks. Yep.
So you can see, you can use anything in your script, constant timer or uniform random timer, but I recommend uniform random timer because it will give you the more replication of the real world scenario, right? In real world scenario, every user will take different time. Not all users will take the same 3 seconds, right? Some users might take 5 seconds, some users might take 2 seconds, right? So better you use uniform random, but it is no harm that you use constant timer. These small things doesn't matter much in your performance. Okay.
No. Yes, sir.
Yes, please tell me.
Sorry, what I was saying was I thought it will take the Gmail ID and password when we click the Google.
That is right. That is right. You are right. You are right. So I think we need to click on Gmail there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Google. Yeah.
But the thing is, why I didn't click there is it will take the password automatically, but that's fine. I don't know. Oh, cool. Okay, now I'll record it. Okay. This is register. This script name is register. So I'm recording now. So what I have to do, the first page is launch, right? Launch. I am launching this application. And the next step is register. Clicking on register. And my third step is register now. Okay. So I will give all the details. So it registered finally. Log out. So there's no log off. Sorry, you're right. So that's it. I'm saving in JMX. So in your projects also, there are different ways to record the script. You know how to convert the HAR file to JMX. Yesterday only I used it in my project. Okay. So you might see many challenges in your script. Like sometimes you'll be unable to record your application using HTTPS test script recorder. So use BlazeMeter. If you are unable to record using BlazeMeter, use this HAR file converter. Okay. You have different options like that. So this is why it is taking time, right? It is considering this think time, uniform random timer. So whenever you record in BlazeMeter, this uniform random timer will come automatically. So this will wait for some time. So you can disable this and run, it will run quick. Anyway, so what you need to do now? You need to give this in your, where you need to give this? In setup thread group, right? So I'm just directly I just copied this and pasted it here. So I got my launch page here. Do I need to change anything? Does it work straight away? See, this launch page contains base URL, right? You are copying your transaction controllers directly from here to there. So if you run this particular script, it won't work because the base URL has been parameterized. Okay, that parameterization is here, but not there. So you need to copy that that parameterizations also, right? So where it has been parameterized, user-defined variables. See, I told you about user-defined variables, right? So this is the user-defined variable where the URL has been parameterized. So copy that. So that's it. So it will take the base URL automatically now. And register is your next step. And what you need to change here? Your first name, last name, and email ID, right? So let us give that. Okay, let's create a file. Oh, sorry. And next one is username, right? What else we need to give here? I gave first name. Username I need to give. first name and last name. Okay, username I need to give. Okay, let us create some 20 users. Okay, so I am creating 20 users here, and I am saving this. Right, I have created. Now you need to import that file. This is the one, and you need to give the variable names. P, first name, P, last name, P, username, right? And P, dollar, P, first name, dollar, P, last name, and my email ID is dollar, P, first name, @ dollar, P, last name .com, and my username is dollar, P, username. And the same here, you are creating the users, and in the actual test you are running these users with how many users? 20 users. 60 is your ramp up, and you can run this for 5 minutes. And here what you need to parameterize here? The username, right? Got it? So what will happen now? I'm just giving 1, 1 and 20. So it will create 20 users in this thread group, because this setup thread group will start first. Okay, when you give setup thread group and tear down thread group, setup thread group will start first. Only after that your actual thread groups will start. Only setup thread group will start first. That should finish first. Only after that your normal thread group will start. So that is the main goal of the setup thread group. So when I start this test, your setup thread group will start first. But if you have several thread groups like this, normal thread groups like this, all thread groups will start at the same time. But with the case of setup thread group and tear down thread group, setup thread group will start first. Only after setup thread group is finished, your normal thread group will start. After your normal thread groups finished, your tear down thread group will start. So here I have given setup thread group. So it will create, or it will register 20 users. And after that, with those 20 users, it will run this test. So that is the advantage of setup thread group. and we can start this test. Let's see how it runs. Just a second. I will have to select this.
ఒక్కొక్క థ్రెడ్ గ్రూప్ కి ఒక్కొక్క లిస్నర్ యాడ్ చేయొచ్చు లిస్నర్ యాడ్ చేయొచ్చు కదా అలా యాడ్ చేయాలి
Not required. Not we can add, but not required at this point. See, also I have given CSV dataset config under here. I have given CSV dataset config under test plan, not under a thread group, because this CSV dataset config should be applicable for both setup and normal thread group. Okay. Setup thread group will use this CSV dataset config to register the 20 users, and normal thread group will use the CSV dataset config to run with those 20 users. Okay, let's run this test. And see what is running now. I should have given a different launch here. The launch and launch are same, but you can see launch happened first, a register is happening next, and what will happen next? Register now. I will stop this test. I want to remove all this uniform random timers because it is taking time. See, it will wait for 12 seconds. So I don't want that as of now. So I'm removing this. Even here, maybe, okay, even here, I will reduce this to 1 second. Okay. So now I will make this launch. I'll change this name as setup launch. Setup register and setup register now. Okay. So see what is happening now. Setup thread group has been started first. The actual thread group is not running. So only after setup thread group is completed, your actual thread group will start. So my setup thread group is completed. Now the actual thread group started. So our load test started now. So this load test will run for 5 minutes. Why it is failing? 1 second. Let me check.
యూజర్ డిఫైన్ వేరియబుల్ కింద ఇచ్చాం కదా
Hmm?
యూజర్ డిఫైన్ వేరియబుల్ అనేది థ్రెడ్ గ్రూప్ కింద ఇచ్చాం కదా సెటప్ థ్రెడ్ గ్రూప్ కింద కాకుండా దీని కింద ఇచ్చాం కదా
No problem. We have given that under trust plan. Let me check 1 second. Okay. Why the launch is not coming? Oh. Yeah, here it is working. Just a second. An appropriate representation of the requested resource could not be found. Why is it failing?
So when we are running multiple versions of JMeter, and does it reserve a port for each of the JMeter instance? Because it has to receive the response from the server.
Multiple instance of JMeter. We are not running multiple. First of all, it will work though we are running multiple instances of JMeter.
Okay.
But now we are not running anyway multiple instances of JMeter, right? Let me check. अरे Hmm. Okay. 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 Got it. Let me check with this. I'm giving the port here. Okay. I think it is one and the same base URL. User defined variables. Okay. HTTPS. Okay. I don't see any difference. Mhm. Let me do one thing. I will add this in a normal thread group. Something wrong. Something wrong. Okay, the headers are not there. Fine. Let's check. Okay, this is happening because of headers. So we have these headers, right? So we need to give headers here also. I don't know why BlazeMeter haven't recorded these headers. Register, I'm not sure if the same headers we have for register or not. Okay. Register is failing. Yeah, user is successfully registered. Okay. So the problem what happened is when I recorded using BlazeMeter, it did not generated headers. That is why it is failing. So now I took the headers from here, from this thread group, from the launch, I took headers and I gave headers to all these samplers. After that, it is working. So now if you see setup thread group ran successfully with 20 with 20 iterations, and after that the launch started, login started, sign in and log off. Let's see why sign in is failing. Why sign in is failing? It's not logging in successfully. Let's check that. Now it is logged in successfully. My profile. Okay. I think it logged in successfully. We don't need this session. I'm just creating a new set of users now. Again, 20 users. Okay. Okay. Let me run now.
పేరు మార్చాం కదా సార్ లాగిన్ లో పేరు మార్చాం కదా కట్ చేసుకున్నాం కదా
Yeah, you're right. I think that is a different script, right? That is a different script. This is a different script. Okay. Correct on the. Now I will run this. See, the setup thread group is running. It is creating users. So it will create 20 users. And after that, our normal thread group will run. So it has created 20 users. And our normal thread group started. See, this is running slowly because we have given think time in normal thread group, 1 second think time. So our normal thread group will run for 5 minutes. and the test will get ended, right? So that is the advantage of having setup thread group. And tear down thread group is the thread group one which we run after the test completion. Once we complete the actual load test, we can add tear down thread group to any activities, whatever. If we want to do any deregistration, then we can add tear down thread group and do the deregistration part. Okay. But the main logic behind setup and tear down thread group is it runs only once. Setup thread group and tear down thread group only run once. Setup thread group runs before the load test, and tear down thread group will run after the load test. And this is the advantage. So you can create users using setup thread group, and you can deregister users if you want after the test using tear down thread. Right. So this test will run for 5 minutes and it will stop. So this is about setup and tear down thread group. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Yeah. And see, if you are recording in JMeter, if the test is failing like this, it is something related to headers, right? So you need to the better option is to record using HTTPS test script recorder. That is the best option. If that is not working, only you have to go to the other options like JMeter, HAR file converter, and all that, right? See what happened if we record using JMeter, it did not generate the headers for us, right? So that won't happen if you record it using HTTPS test script recorder. You'll have a clean record.
Okay.
Fine.
Yeah. Sir, one
Yes.
follow-up question on that, sir.
Correct.
You said
Yeah.
the setup thread group runs first and only then the main thread groups, right? So is there any way to add a similar dependency between thread groups, like not the setup, but the regular thread groups? Can you make it run one after the other? Because, or would there be any requirement like that? Where you say, okay, start this thread, this functional, this scenario first, and then probably only after this is completed, run the next thing, or?
Okay. So for that, you have something called startup delays.
Okay,
okay, you have something called startup delay. So if you have multiple thread groups, what you have to do is you have to add all the thread groups. And for the first thread group, you give 0-second delay. That means you don't need to give anything. And the second thread group, you have to give some delay between first and second thread group, right? First thread group ramp up is how much? 60 seconds. So you have to give second thread group, you have to give 60-second delay. So that after first thread group ramp up is completed, your second thread group will start, right?
Okay.
So you have to give that delay. And as per your requirement, if your second thread group should start only after my first thread group completes, then you have to give that kind of delay in your second thread group, right?
Yeah.
So delay is the option which you have.
Okay. And for the transaction controllers, we are seeing that it is running it in, right, like we recorded, like setup launch first, setup register, and register now. So how is that sequence coming? Is it alphabetic or like, or is it, what I mean is, yeah, or you can say what are the sequence?
Okay, the sequence is nothing but you have samplers. You cannot hear his question, right? So, okay, what he's asking is about this. You are asking about this transaction controller sequence, right? How it follows.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
why
right.
not it run register now first, and after that it run register and launch? Why is it following launch, register? How is it following launch, register, and register now?
Yeah. Yes.
That is what you are asking, right?
Yeah.
See,
right.
under transaction controllers, what you have? You have these samplers, right? You have samplers under transaction controllers. If you don't use transaction controllers, if you leave samplers only, how does the samplers run? Sequentially, right? So you are just enclosing transaction controller. You are just enclosing your samplers inside a transaction controller. That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Your samplers are running sequentially. it is just that you are enclosing transaction controllers inside your sampler. So your transaction controllers will also run sequentially only, right?
Okay.
You're getting me?
Yeah.
So your samplers basically run sequentially.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. And that is dependent on the JMX file setup, or this is the sequence of the sampler.
Uh-huh.
Is it going by how it appears in the JMX file?
Correct. How it appears in the JMX file. Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. And coming back to your question again, delay is one option. How you can run your thread groups sequentially, and you have also this option. Run thread groups consecutively, one at a time. So if you select this option, your first thread group will run first. After that, only your second thread group will start. Okay.
Okay. In real projects, do you see any need?
No. I mean, it depends again. It depends on the functionality of your application, right? If there is an application in such a way that you have done a bill payment and someone from the admin side have to approve that. So how that will happen? Admin functionality is different thread group, and bill payment functionality is one thread group, right? So bill payment should happen first. After that, approval parts should come, right? So these two should not run at the same time, right? It should not run concurrently. So in such cases, you can use this scenario. But I did not come across these scenarios, but it depends on your functionality requirement, right?
Yeah. Yes.
In such scenarios, if admin have to approve your bill payment, then bill payment thread group should start first. And after that only your admin functionality should start. Then you have to select this option.
Okay.
Right? And you can also give delay if you don't want to select this option.
Okay. Yeah. That's a second.
Fine. Yeah. So I'll come to my actual topic. So we are going to start with each and every like elements now. So JMeter elements from today. Okay. JMeter elements from today. So whatever I explained you till now is some kind of basics of performance testing in JMeter. And whatever are important is what I covered till now. I would have covered all the elements for you, one or two topics in each element. But now, from now, I'm going to cover each and every element in detail, right? Fine. Let's talk about logic controllers. So what is a controller? What is a controller? We have used recording controller. We have used transaction controller, right? What is a controller? So the controller, it is used to group your samplers. That is the definition. That's it. If you get this question in an interview, this is what you should answer. Controller is just used to group your samplers. You need to, if you don't have controller, what will happen? If you don't have a controller, what will happen? So for example, you have a scenario, fund transfer scenario, for example. You are launching your screen, logging in, clicking on sign in, doing fund transfer and logging off, right? For example, take sign in transaction. Okay. When you are clicking on sign in, how many samplers are coming? Take our performance test practice application example only. How many samplers are coming in sign in? Not one, two are coming. So it is not always that you'll get only one sampler per click. Sometimes per click you will receive 10 samplers also. Per click, sometimes you will receive 5 samplers. So how do you segregate your clicks? There should be some way to segregate your clicks, right? If you don't have a controller, how do you identify, how do you get the response time of your sign in separately? If you don't have a controller, you will get response time of this sampler separately and this sampler separately, and you need to do calculation because you need, this is one single click. With one single click you are getting this sampler and this sampler, right? So you need the response time combinedly, not separately. Okay, you need the response time for the combined samplers, not separate samplers. So for that you need to have this controllers, right? So this controller will group these two samplers. Okay, this particular controller has grouped these two samplers. Now, if you run your test, if you run this particular script, what will happen? You will get a combined response time in this sign-in controller. Okay, so it will do the calculation automatically. So that is the main advantage of your controller. It will group your samplers. But in controllers, you have different types of controllers. You have simple controller. You have recording controller. You have transaction controller. You have random controller. You have random order controller. You have a runtime controller. You have throughput controller. You have loop controller. You have interleave controller, and you have if controller. You have while controller. Okay, different controllers are there. So these are few important controllers which I will talk about today, and tomorrow also we are almost 10, but I'll talk about few controllers today. So simple controller. Simple controller is basically called do nothing controller. It is also called do nothing controller. Okay, so it doesn't do anything. It will, the main aim of simple controller is it just groups your samplers. That's it. Okay, if you run your script in simple controller, let's see what will happen. See, currently you have this transaction controller selected, right? You can change your controller from transaction controller to simple controller. It is easy. Right click, change controller. And I am giving simple controller here. Change controller, simple controller. See, when I'm changing it to simple controller, do you have any options inside this? No. So that is why it is called do nothing controller. It doesn't, see, in transaction controller, you have few options, but in simple controller, when I'm changing it to simple controller, you don't have any options. Now, I am running this for only one iteration. Let's see what will happen. See what is happening. You have given simple controller, and inside your simple controller, you have given your samples. You have grouped your samples. But in your aggregate report, what you are seeing? Only samplers. Only samplers is what you are seeing. You are seeing only samplers. You are under sign in, you have, as I said before, under sign in, you have two samplers. You are seeing those two samplers. So can you calculate the response time of your sign in at once here? No. So that is why simple controller is called do nothing controller. It does nothing. Having simple controller or not having simple controller is one and the same. Your result looks similar. It will be the same. So that is what the simple controller is. And recording controller, you know, recording controller is used to record your script. But having said that, you can also record your script using, you can also record your script using transaction controller as well, right? HTTP test script recorder, you have by default option is use recording controller. So if you are not having, if you are not using transaction controllers, you can, your by default option is recording controller. If you want to select, you can select transaction controllers like this, right? But your default option in JMeter is recording controller, right? So that is a recording controller and transaction controller. You know transaction controller? Till now, we are doing all our scripts in this controller only, right? I'm changing my controller to transaction controller now. So in transaction controller, what you have two options. One is generate parent sample and include duration of timer and preprocessors in generated sample. Okay. It is always recommended to select this first option. If you don't select this first option, see what will happen. I'll open aggregate report again. See, you are getting your samplers as separate response times and you are getting your actual transaction controller response time as separate. See, under launch, you have how many samplers? One. So that sampler is this. And launch also, you are getting response time. Response time will be same because you have only one sampler, right? Under login also, you have one sampler. So you are seeing separate sampler here and this is your transaction controller, right? Under sign in, you have two samplers. One sampler's response time is 714 milliseconds. Another sampler average response time is 394 milliseconds. Total is 1108. Where you are seeing the total? In control. Okay. So what I'm saying here is you always, it is recommended to select your generate parent sampler. What it will generate only your parent sampler with this. That means if I run this now, it will generate only my parent sampler. What is my parent sampler here? My controller itself, right? Under my controller, you have samplers. So it will generate only the sampler response time. So my sign in samplers, my sign in controller response time is 1137. Inside sign in, you might have multiple samplers. It is the overall response time is what it will be. So what is the second option here? Include duration of a timer and preprocessor. We should never select this option and unless it is necessary or required by the client, or if there is any kind of requirement like that. We will not have such requirements. See, the name itself suggests that it should include duration of your timer and preprocessor. If you select this, it will include in the response time, it will add the think time response time also. If you are giving 3 seconds as your think time, it will give that response time also. So you should not select this second option. It is always recommended to select the first option. So whenever you are using transaction controller, add transaction controller, select the first option, right? So that you will get clean response times like this. And if you open your view results tree also, you will see like this in a clean way. Inside that, you will see your samplers. Okay, so that there won't be any confusion like this, right? So this is what is about transaction controllers. We generally use this on daily basis. Like we mostly use transaction controller only, right? In our tests. And what is this random controller? And what is random order controller? Okay, let's go to JMeter again. Why is this failing? Is not failing. I'll talk about these assertions later. So I'm disabling this. Okay. Okay. So now you have four transaction controllers, right? So let us talk about random controller, right? Okay. So now I want to group all my transactions, or let's disable this. I'll come to this thread group later. I'm adding a new thread group, and inside that I am adding a sampler, a Java request sampler. It's a normal sampler. If you run this, it will give green. That's it. Okay. Just for your understanding, I am adding this. Okay. So you have 5 samplers inside your thread group, right? So total 5 samplers inside your thread group. So I am running this. Okay, I'll just run this. So all 5 requests ran successfully, right? All 5 requests, Java request 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everything ran successfully. But now what I will do is I want to give a random controller for 3rd, 4th, and 5th request. So I am selecting all these 3 requests, right clicking and insert parent. I'm clicking on insert parent, logic controller. Inside that I'm selecting a random controller, right? So now I have request 1, request 2, and after that a random controller. Inside random controller you have request 3, 4, 5. Okay. Now let us run. Previously I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 requests. Now let me run. So you got 1, 2, and 4. Let me clear and run once again. This time you got 1, 2, and 5. Let me clear. This time you got 1, 2, 5 again. This time you got 1, 2, 3. So what it is giving you is the first request and second request it will give in the response. But out of these 3, 4, 5 requests, it will take one request randomly. It will give you that in the result. So that is what is the advantage of random controller. Now I'll change this random controller to random order controller and see what will happen. It ran first 2 requests in sequentially, and from 3rd request onwards, it is taken in a random way. Like 5th request ran first, next 3rd request and 4th request, right? Again, if I run 1, 2, again sequentially, again 4, 5, and 3. See? So random controller will give you only one sampler inside your controller. You can have 10 samplers inside your random controller. It will give only one sampler in the result, but it will take a random sampler inside it. Between 1 to 10, it will take 5 or 6, whatever it is, right? But random order controller will give you all samplers, but it will shuffle. It will give you in a random manner. Okay, it will not give you in sequential manner. Okay, so let us do the same in our test. See, you can also enclose your transaction controllers inside your random controller. Under a controller also you can have a controller. Okay. See, I have selected my transaction controllers. Which transaction controllers I have selected? Login and sign in. I'm right clicking, insert. I'm selecting the random controller initially. So what will happen if I run? Launch, login, and log out. Where is sign in? No. Again, launch, login, and log out. There is no sign in. Launch, sign in this time, and log out. So that is the advantage of random controller. If I change it to random order controller, it will take both, but it will shuffle. Okay. So it will shuffle like this. You're getting me, right? So now you understood what is random controller and random order controller, right? So you'll get this questions in interview. But what you need to understand here is, when do we use these things? When do we use this random controller, random order controller? In which situations we'll use this? For example, we'll use this rarely, that's for sure. Okay. But in which situations we'll use is, for example, you are working on an e-commerce application, right? In e-commerce application, you are working like Flipkart or Amazon or something, right? There few customers are interested to search, like they will search by brand. Few customers will search by cost, right? And few customers will search by like new products, new release, right? There are many such requirements, right? So not all customers will search only for brand, not all customers will search only for cost, not all customers will search only for new release, right? Different customers will think in different way. So why don't you put all this in a random controller, right? Why don't you put this in a random controller while you are running this load test? Okay, so that when you are running this load test with 500 users will log in slowly. Okay, so when you are running with 500 users, and I'm saying 500 users will run at same time. Okay, that means first user will do login and search by brand. Second user will do login, he might search by cost. Third user will log in, he might search by brand again. Fourth user will log in, he might search by new release. And the same first user again complete the first iteration, go back, and he might again search by cost, right? So this will happen. So in order to replicate that real world scenario in such conditions, you will use this random controller and random order controller. You're getting me, right, Ravi?
Yes, sir. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So what is random controller? It will give you only one sampler, one random sampler in the result, right? What is random order controller? It will display all samplers in a random way, right? Okay. Shall we talk about this runtime throughput controller, loop controller, interleave controller tomorrow? These are little important. We can discuss tomorrow. Okay. Throughput controller is an important topic. I will give you an example for this and I'll tell you how to use this throughput controller. And loop controller, interleave controller, we can discuss tomorrow all these topics. Okay. But for normal load tests, for normal applications, we can use transaction controller, right? But if you want to replicate real world scenarios, you have to use random order. It's up to you. No one will ask you to use random order controller, random controller throughput controller. Throughput controller also we'll use to replicate real world scenarios, right? I'll explain you tomorrow why we use throughput controller. But it is again up to you which controller you will use. There is no harm in using transaction controller. If you use transaction controller, it's a straight away process. Okay. Every transaction will take the same user count. Everything will run with the same users, same iterations. Okay. But if you use random controller, random order controller, throughput controller, it is more like real world scenario. In reality, how the things are happening, you can achieve that real world scenario in your tests using these controllers. But again, there is no harm in using transaction controller. In my project, I'm using transaction controller. Okay. So I'll talk about this remaining controllers tomorrow. And after this, I'll go to the different element. Maybe probably I'll start other element also tomorrow. But I'll definitely cover this controllers tomorrow. Yeah.